Our story begins in approximately 480 BC in the Persian city of Susa. The king who reigned over the vast Persian Empire was King Xerxes. The king was married to a very beautiful queen by the name of Queen Vashti. In the third year of his reign, King Xerxes hosted a big party for himself and his closest friends. The men were having such a great time that on the last day of the party, the king commanded Queen Vashti to come and dance for him and all of his friends. But Queen Vashti disobeyed and furiously replied,
"No, I will not dance for you. Remove her as queen." Disgraceful Queen of Persia.
Disgraced Queen of Persia. The search began for a new queen. There were many young attractive girls who were anxious to take the position and did all they could to impress the king. Nonetheless, a beautiful Jewish girl impressed King Xerxes the most by simply being herself and ultimately won his heart. Her name was Esther.
Long live the new Queen of Persia.
Yay. Meanwhile, an evil man in the king's court who hid his wickedness from Xerxes was promoted to one of the highest ranking officials in the land. This man was an Agagite by the name of Haman. Due to the king's promotion, everyone in Susa was ordered to bow down in honor whenever Haman passed by. Everyone willingly complied. Everyone except one man. This individual refused to bow down to any man. He was a very brave Jew who bowed to God and God alone. He also happened to be Esther's older cousin and guardian, since Esther's parents had died when she was very young. He was always there to give her help and advice. His name was Mordecai. Whenever Haman would pass through the streets and see everyone except Mordecai bowing down, he would become furious. When he learned this man was a Jew, he hated him all the more. He became so enraged that he not only wanted to destroy Mordecai, but all the Jews in Persia, all of them, in the whole empire as well. However, he needed the king's approval for such an extreme act. So, Haman, he went to Xerxes and said there is a certain group of people throughout the kingdom who are different to us. They have different laws and different customs, and they do not obey you. Therefore, it is in your best interest to have them all destroyed. Haman, he was crafty and didn't tell the king who these people were. Thus, the king agreed to issue a decree to have them all destroyed on the 13th day of the 12th month, that is Adar. And he gave his signet ring and said, "Do with these people as you please." When all the Jewish people heard about this command, they were greatly distressed and wept bitterly. Mordecai wrote to Queen Esther to tell her the horrible news and see if she could persuade her husband, the king, to change this wicked decree.
This is a message from Mordecai.
King Xerxes still did not know that his new queen was secretly a Jew. Esther sent a reply to Mordecai.
This is a message from Esther.
She reminded him that according to the law of the Persians, no one can approach the king unless invited by him. The punishment for approaching his throne without being called was death, unless the king showed favor and mercy and held out his golden scepter when approached. Esther revealed her deepest fear to her cousin.
I'm afraid to see the king.
Just as he had done all Esther's life, Mordecai he had to encourage her to act bravely. So he sent a message back to Esther.
This is a message from Mordecai.
His letter boldly read, "Do not think you will escape the destruction just because you live in the king's palace. If you do nothing, then rescue for the Jews will come from somewhere else, but you will surely perish."
But perhaps you came to the kingdom for a time such as this.
After receiving the message, Esther replied to him, she instructed her cousin, "Tell all the Jews in Susa to fast for 3 days on my behalf. After the 3 days, I will approach the king, even though it is against the law."
If I die, I die.
After the 3-day fast, Esther did as she promised and risked her life by approaching the king, uninvited, while he was holding court on his throne. When the king saw it was Esther, he was not angry, and instead he held out his golden scepter, showing approval, mercy, and favor towards her. Esther touched the scepter to show her thanks and relief.
What is your request, my queen? Please come to a feast and bring Haman.
The king and Haman agreed to this arrangement. Meanwhile, Haman was becoming more enraged by Mordecai's continual refusal to bow to him, and he kept complaining to his wife, Zeresh. He grumbled to his wife,
"I have lots of money and many sons, and am a high-ranking official. But I will not stop until that evil Mordecai is dead!"
So Zeresh advised him,
Why don't you build a huge gallows to hang Mordecai on?
I'm fasting.
Wicked Haman liked this plan very much and had gallows built 75 foot high. The evening of Esther's feast arrived, and her two honored guests joined her. The king asked Esther again.
What is your request, my queen?
Esther responded, "Someone has made a decree against my people to have us killed and destroyed. My request is that you spare me and my people." The king questioned.
Who is the man who dared to do this?
Esther pointed and
That wicked Haman.
the king was absolutely furious. And Haman was terrified. He was terrified. Someone pointed out to the king that Haman had built a large gallows beside his house, intended for hanging Mordecai the Jew. The king exclaimed,
Hang him on the gallows!
What? No, not again! You can't do this to me!
So they led Haman. They led Haman away to be hung on his own gallows because of the trickery and attempts to kill the Jewish people. Okay. The king then gave Haman's position of honor to Mordecai. Got the ring? As well as his signet ring. And he clothed him in royal robes. Whee! However, the order by Haman to destroy all the Jews had already been sent throughout the whole of the empire. Esther pleaded with Xerxes to have it revoked. According to Persian law, any decree made and sealed by the king and his ring, it could not be reversed. So instead, a new decree was written by Mordecai. Yes. That the Jews may gather to defend themselves and destroy any armed men who tried to attack them. The Jewish people were relieved when they learned of it because they knew they could now fight back and God would deliver them. When the day of the Jewish annihilation arrived, God miraculously turned the tables and every Persian enemy was either destroyed or became a Jew themselves when they realized they could not win. As a result of this victory, there was a great celebration amongst the Jewish people. In obedience to the God they served, Mordecai and Esther, they named and established an annual celebration on the 14th day of the month of Adar throughout the kingdom, and they have celebrated that ever after. Every family and their future generations were commanded to commemorate the day when God miraculously turned their sorrow into joy and their mourning into victory. This annual celebration was called the Feast of Purim. The end.